Friday, July 5th, day 345, and I'm sitting here because I'm already halfway home from the train station, and I would like to do this outside. I feel it's a bit boring filming in my home. I've been to a family birthday. There are creatures flying around here, little tiny creatures who are probably out to get me. I've been at a family birthday, enjoying myself. Always good to be back at the family homestead. Lots of children who have a lot of energy and who have problems understanding that us adults don't have the same level of energy, and especially that I don't have the same level of energy, because a lot of times I can briefly show the same amount of energy to play with them, but right now I'm tapped because of, and that doesn't compute always, and it also meant that I had to get home earlier because I'm pretty tapped out. But well, I'd like to have stayed there I'd like to have stayed there a bit longer, but those are the breaks. What I've been thinking about, in part because of the whole know yourself too thing I've been talking about, the whole thing about knowing more about my Tourette's, autism, whatever, to explain the frustrating episodes of fear of cameras for the educational thing. It started a couple of thoughts going through my head, and over the last few days, one thought in particular has kind of stood out. I have a feeling, I have an idea that there might be a cross section, I think maybe the autism and, however strange it might sound, the allergies may have crossed over, may have kind of, there might be some kind of common ground between them where they kind of trigger each other. The trick about autism, at least as I have experienced it for practically my whole life, at least the part I can remember, and in what little I have really thoroughly researched, autism is not so much a disease, an illness in the common sense, as it is an uncontrollable, poorly defined, and very broad fear. When you have autism, at least the kind that I have, that my experiences with autism is that the world is a very strange place. You do not have the same starting point as other people. It's not that you lack something. Well, it is in part, but it's not just that you're behind the field or anything. Some ways you're behind, some ways you're in front, but it's like you're coming from two different starting points. The way people think makes no sense. The world is strange and frightening. People are strange and frightening. Life, society, is strange and frightening. It's hard to put my finger exactly on this strangeness, but the one thing I can say is that when you're dealing with an autistic person, basing an argument on because other people do so, because that's what people do, is a lost cause, because that idea of doing things in order to belong, that instinct to be part of a group, just really isn't there. And it's incredible when you don't have that. It's incredible how much you notice the importance of that in other people's lives, the importance of belonging, how much people will sacrifice, how much crap they will go through just in order to kind of fit in. And as I said in the Danish version, I'm going to regret the detail I'm going into here, because I'm going to have to do this in Spanish. But the entire idea of belonging isn't really there. And the degree to which autism becomes crippling, I think, can have something to do with at what point you go, okay, I don't understand this, but I'm going to play along. I don't understand living my life in order to please other people's idea of what people should do. If I want to do something and it doesn't harm anyone and it doesn't cause any significant trouble because of what I do, I don't see a point in not doing it just because it's different. I don't see the problem in different. I don't see the problem in this is not what people do. I don't see the problem in being weird. It's not a kind of rebellious, I'm weird, freedom stuff. I don't see the point in that either. I just don't see the point in conforming simply because other people want me to conform. I can conform in the sense that I'm not going to break laws. I'm not going out of my way to hurt, insult, or push away people. I like to think that I'm a nice guy. But the idea that I should conform just because that's what people do, that idea is unbelievably alien to me. I know another artist who has no language, who is fairly crippled by autism. She seems to be living an okay life, but that's of course because she's cared for. She has no social. She has no language and no social identity, really. She doesn't interact in what people would usually think of any social way. And what I'm thinking is that it might not be because she can't, and this is exclusively my angle on the subject, but it's because she doesn't see a point to it. Everybody socializes, everybody has friends, everybody learns to talk. But the argument that everybody does it might not mean that much to her. Just as it doesn't mean that much to me, but in different things. So I found something to make sense in doing them because other people. I've been told that I didn't speak until fairly late, but when I did, I suddenly spoke almost entirely correctly. I never had much of that baby language. I just went a long time with no language, and then I had a language. And that might be some kind of I don't remember it, of course. It's too early in my life for remembering it. But that might be a kind of way that I dealt with the idea of deciding, does it make sense to me to learn a language, to have a language, just because other people do it. And I think the point where you break off from that doing it because other people do it might define how functional an autist you are. If you break away early, then a lot of things that are really basic, you don't develop them, and it becomes a complete handicap. It becomes crippling. But if you kind of stick with what other people do for a bit longer and catch the basics, you become asocial because you don't see a reason to fit in, but you have the skills to interact with society. You have language, you have a basic idea of laws. Maybe there are even more things that fit in there, because there are mental handicaps that allow you to develop language and basic human traits, but do not let you develop the idea of abiding by laws, or even respecting other people as people. If it's a philosophy, then it's solipsism, the idea that other people aren't really real, that you're the only conscious being around, which is a philosophy. If it's a mental instinct, then we're dealing with psychopaths who do not really have any personal attachment to the idea that other people may suffer. Other people may be real or not, doesn't matter. You just don't care. But then if you stick with the other people do it argument a bit longer, you may reach the point where I am, in which you develop a basic ability to kind of fit in, but no desire to fit in extensively. No desire to attach yourself to groups, no desire to live your life according to a formula put forth by others. And I wonder if there are probably even farther points farther away that where you can break off from. But the crossover between that and the allergy thing is, the autism brings about a fear because you don't understand, why do people do this? Something everybody takes for granted. Why? Why do they do this? Why? These people are strange. These people are alien. It doesn't make sense. The world doesn't make sense. And when you're young, that's incredibly terrifying. That you are unable, at a very basic level, to make sense of why the world is the way it is. And I've dealt with that by simply putting on my thinking cap and trying to figure it out. But the allergy thing, really, if the allergy is strong, I'm not asthmatic, never have been, but my allergies have been a lot stronger than they are now. Right now they're a bother. They are annoying me because I cannot really do much. I'm kind of semi-bedridden, and that really ticks me off because I want to do things. But as a child, my allergies were crippling. And that was terrifying because it's your body turning on itself. It is, I'm not sure of the details, but it is kind of an autoimmune disease or autoimmune condition where the body starts attacking itself because it reacts to some things, in my case pollen, as hostile invaders, and it just overreacts grossly. And when as a kid you experience your body attacking itself from the inside, and with a powerful force, which in my case it did, and nobody around you has the same thing. Nobody really understands what's going on. No one can explain it to you. That is terrifying. And I remember one case where I had a fit in the shower because sometimes something is triggered deep inside your nose, somewhere around the sinuses, and it feels basically like an explosion of icy cold needles exploding in slow motion, tearing everything apart. Let's just say it's painful. And when that happens to a kid who doesn't understand it, who no one can explain it to, at that one point that I can remember, when mashing my face and then pounding on my face did not work, did not stop it, I simply took my entire face and slammed it into the piping for the shower head. Bloody nose, everything. In a fit of fear and rage. And that kind of fear of why something is happening that's not supposed to be happening, and the fear of why things work in a way they shouldn't, a way they don't make any sense working, those have a kind of crossover field. And I'm thinking that maybe the weird reactions I've been having have something to do with the fact that allergy, although it's not at anywhere near the same level as it was in my childhood, and the autism, although it's at no level comparable to what it was in my childhood, although both are much weaker now, the fact that at some point the allergy is seasonal, the autism comes and goes based on various triggers or even randomness, and if they peak at exactly the same time, which matches because it's been the peak of the season, and my autism is at quite a bit of a high due to whatever I've dragged home with me in my head from Greenland. If they peak at the same moment, I think they kind of set off a perfect storm. And I may just be lucky that it's not more powerful now, not as powerful as it has been. Because I don't want to imagine what that could mean, and I may even have experienced it and just be blocking it out or something, or not remembering or something. But I've been thinking about that in relation to the whole know yourself to idea. On a completely different note, I've also been thinking about my projects now that I'm kind of designing the intro videos, at least in text, until I can do the videos actually. And something occurred to me because I was thinking about some videos I want to do as reply videos to some other videos that I'm pretty fond of on YouTube. And I've kind of had an idea that picks up a lot of threads, kind of tie them together. It doesn't make anything that much easier, but it kind of gives it a pivot point, some kind of a center to balance around, a focal point. I'm not going to go into details about what it is, just the fact that I may have found something that can draw the educational stuff, the fictional writing stuff, the idea of entertaining education and entertainment as it is in the world in general. A lot of things kind of just meet each other there, and I don't really have a detailed. I have more details than this. I'm not going to give it because I don't have full details of the idea. It has to be developed, but something I want to think about. So yeah, that's a long one today. I'm fearing the Spanish one greatly, and the Swedish one a bit too.